Your life feels out of control. And no, it's not just in your head. It's the constant notifications pinging for your attention, the pressure at work that never seems to let up, and the sudden, jarring setbacks that throw your life into a tailspin. It feels like you're caught in a current, just trying to keep your head above water, being pulled from one crisis to the next. You're not commanding your life, you're just reacting to it. But what if there was a way to find solid ground in the middle of all this chaos? What if I told you that for over 2,000 years, there's been a playbook for this exact feeling? It was written by people who faced plagues, exile, political turmoil, and the weight of ruling entire empires. They were the Stoics, and they knew the world was unpredictable. But they mastered a truth that's more relevant today than ever. While the world outside is chaotic, our inner world doesn't have to be. In this video, we're not just going to talk about ancient philosophy. We're going to give you a concrete, actionable framework from the Stoics that you can use today to take back control when your world feels like it's crashing down. This isn't about motivational fluff. This is a practical guide to rebuilding your life, one choice at a time. Before we get to the practical exercises, we have to understand the single most important principle in all of Stoicism. It's the foundation everything else is built on. The Greek philosopher Epictetus, a man born a slave who became one of the most influential thinkers of his time, summed it up perfectly. He taught that the main job in life is to separate everything into two categories: things we can control, and things we can't. So what's in our control? Our own thoughts, our judgments, our choices, our actions, and our responses. That's it. That's the entire list. And what's not in our control? Literally everything else. The weather, the economy, what other people think of you, whether you get that promotion, or if your flight gets delayed. The Stoics argued that almost all our anxiety, frustration, and suffering comes from one simple, tragic mistake. We try to control things that are fundamentally uncontrollable, while at the same time, we neglect the one area where we have absolute power, our own mind. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, arguably the most powerful man on earth at the time, wrote this to himself in his private journal: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the core of our work today. It's not about being passive or just giving up. It's about a radical shift in focus. Stop wasting energy on unwinnable battles against external events, and instead, point that energy toward mastering your inner world. This is the first and most critical step to getting control back. Alright, let's get practical. The first tool from the Stoic playbook is called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Now, that sounds pretty grim, but it's one of the most powerful and counterintuitive exercises for building resilience. The Roman philosopher Seneca, who had to navigate the treacherous courts of Emperor Nero, knew that we are often our own worst enemies. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How true is that? We spend hours, days, even weeks, tormented by anxiety about what might happen. The disastrous work presentation, the painful breakup, the financial ruin. We live through these catastrophes in our minds 1,000 times before they ever happen, if they even happen at all. Negative visualization flips this on its head. Instead of being a victim of your anxious imagination, you use it as a training ground. So, here's what you do. For 5 minutes each morning, don't think about all the things you hope go right. Instead, calmly and deliberately, think about things that could go wrong. Imagine your day getting disrupted. Your car won't start. A project you've poured months into gets a negative review. You have to have a difficult conversation with a loved one. But here's the crucial second part. For each scenario, you mentally rehearse your response. Not a panicked reaction, but a calm, rational one. If my car doesn't start, I'll call for a ride, notify work, and handle it without anger. If my project is criticized, I'll listen for any truth in it, I won't take it as a personal attack, and I'll focus on what I can learn. By rehearsing adversity, you accomplish two things. First, you build gratitude for when things don't go wrong. That smooth commute you take for granted suddenly becomes a small gift. And second, you vaccinate yourself against the shock and panic of setbacks. When life inevitably throws a wrench in your plans, you've already been there in your mind. You've already planned your response. You've built the mental muscle to handle it with poise and control, turning potential disaster into a manageable problem. The second principle is both profound and deeply practical. Memento mori, or remember you must die. In our culture, we do everything we can to avoid thinking about death. We see it as morbid, something to be scared of. But for the Stoics, reflecting on our own mortality was the ultimate tool for living a life of purpose and meaning. Seneca, once again, offers some piercing wisdom here. He noticed that most of us drift through life as if we have an infinite amount of time. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. We waste it on trivial things, on pointless arguments, on mindless distractions, and on worrying about what people we don't even like think of us." Memento mori is the antidote to all that wasted time. It's a tool that creates clarity and urgency. When you remember that your time is finite, it forces you to ask the big questions. Is this what I really want to be doing? Is this who I want to be? Am I living a life that lines up with my values? Here's the daily practice. When you wake up, take just one moment to reflect on the simple fact that you've been given another day, a privilege denied to many. Marcus Aurelius started his days by reminding himself of this. Then, ask yourself one question. If this were my last day on earth, how would I spend it? This isn't about creating a bucket list of wild adventures. It's about prioritizing what truly matters. You'll probably find your answer isn't spend 3 hours scrolling social media or get into a petty fight with a coworker. The answer is usually about connection, contribution, and character. Call a loved one. Do your work with focus and excellence. Be kind. Forgive a grudge. By using death as your compass, you cut through the noise and the nonsense. It forces you to separate the essential from the trivial. It ignites a sense of purpose that can guide your actions, helping you to stop wasting your one precious life and start living it with intention and control. The Stoics weren't passive philosophers, they were active practitioners of self-improvement. They knew that wisdom and control don't just happen overnight. They're the result of daily, diligent practice. This brings us to our third principle, daily reflection, most famously done through journaling. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, one of the most famous Stoic texts ever found, was never meant to be a book. It was his private journal, a place where he could review his day, question his own thoughts and actions, and hold himself accountable to his principles. This practice is the cornerstone of building self-awareness and self-control. Throughout the day, we're pulled in 1,000 different directions. We react emotionally, act out of habit, and get influenced by the people around us. The evening journal is your chance to step back and become an objective observer of your own life. It's where you go from being a character in the play to also being the director. The exercise is simple but transformative. At the end of each day, set aside 10 minutes and ask yourself 3 questions inspired by the Stoics. 1. What did I do well today, according to my own values? This is about recognizing your progress and reinforcing good behavior. 2. Where did I fall short? What mistake did I make in thought, word, or action? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about honest self-assessment. Maybe you lost your temper, acted out of fear, or were just lazy. 3. How can I do better tomorrow? Based on where I fell short today, what's a specific strategy I can use if I'm in a similar situation again? When you do this every day, you start to build on your own progress. You begin to see patterns in your behavior. You might notice, for example, that you're most reactive and angry in the evenings after a stressful workday. Armed with that knowledge, you can now design a better response. Tomorrow, when you feel that anger rising, you can choose to take a walk, meditate for 5 minutes, or simply pause before you speak. You are no longer a victim of your reactive anger. You are an architect of your own character. This daily review turns every single day, even the bad ones, into a lesson in how to live better. The final principle we'll cover is maybe the most challenging, but also the most strengthening: the practice of voluntary discomfort. The Stoics understood that a life spent in constant comfort creates a fragile mind. When you've never really faced hardship, even the smallest inconvenience can feel like a catastrophe. Seneca advised his friend to periodically live as if he had lost everything. To eat simple food, wear basic clothes, and sleep on a hard floor, all while asking himself, is this what I was so afraid of? This wasn't a punishment. It was mental and spiritual training. Voluntary discomfort does 2 things. First, it builds gratitude. By intentionally experiencing a little cold, a little hunger, or a little hardship, you reset your appreciation for the comforts you normally take for granted. That warm bed, that hot meal, they stop being things you expect and start being sources of genuine joy. More importantly, it builds fortitude. It toughens your mind and proves to you that you can endure more than you think. As Seneca wrote, everlasting misfortune does have one blessing, that it ends up by toughening those whom it constantly afflicts. By choosing small, manageable hardships, you prepare yourself for the unavoidable, major hardships that life will eventually send your way. You're training for adversity on your own terms. The practical exercise here is to sprinkle small, intentional challenges into your week. Take a cold shower. It trains you to stay calm and breathe through physical discomfort. Fast for a period, maybe by skipping a meal. It teaches self-discipline over your appetites. Intentionally choose the harder path. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Walk instead of driving for a short errand. When you do these things, you send a powerful message to your own mind: I am not a slave to my comfort. I am in control of my impulses. I can endure. In a world that relentlessly sells you comfort and convenience, choosing discomfort is a radical act of self-mastery. It's how you build a mind that is not just resilient, but truly unbreakable. We've covered 4 powerful, time-tested Stoic principles you can start using right now to reclaim your life from the chaos. This isn't just philosophy, it's a practical guide to building an unbreakable mind. If you got some value from this and you're ready to stop reacting and start living with intention, then subscribe to the channel for more practical wisdom. We go deep on these topics every week. And now, a question for you. Don't just be a passive listener, become an active participant in your own growth. In the comments below, tell us one small, concrete action you will take this week based on what you've learned. Will you try journaling for one night? Take one cold shower. Practice negative visualization for a single morning. Commit to it publicly. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. The feeling that your life is out of control is a lie. The truth is, you've never had control over outside events, and you never will. You can't control the economy, you can't control a medical diagnosis, and you definitely can't control how other people choose to act. But you have been given something far more valuable, the power to control your mind. The power to choose your response. The power to transform every obstacle into an opportunity to grow in wisdom, courage, and resilience. The Stoics didn't promise an easy life, and neither do I. They promised something far better, that if you focus diligently on what is within your power, you can build an inner fortress that no external chaos can ever breach. You can find peace, purpose, and strength, no matter what life throws at you. Control isn't about managing the world. It's about managing yourself. Start today. Start with one small choice. Reclaim your power.